Hey Collective, it's Alan. Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to come back. I've been gone for about a week where I've been doing double duty, and so I wanted to jump on here and kind of talk about one of the cutest downloads I've ever gotten in my life. And it actually relates to you all. I wasn't quite sure when I first got it because it was very Disney-esque. And I wasn't sure I was going to be able to talk about it because it was a little bit too cutesy for my taste, but it still, it reached me in the right way, and the Divine assures me that it's for you as a collective. So one of the things that we're going through right now as a collective group of people is that we are facing a division that is happening within our own world, and what is happening is the awakened souls that are truly spiritual, that are seeing through the facade of everything playing out, are now trying to take a different direction than the majority of our planet. And the reasoning being is because the high vibrational awakened soul can see right through the BS of the other veil that's on top of everyone else that's still in slumber. And so we're having to kind of pivot a bit in different directions, and it's a little bit amusing and also a little bit stressful. But they're high vibrational issues that we're all encountering, and so the Divine wanted me to talk to you about it in a very cute way. So essentially what had happened was I was minding my own business, asleep as usual, and I got this really interesting download, which was, it was a video clip of Aladdin. And I just started to kind of giggle because I think what had triggered it was that I had watched something on Natalie's channel where she was talking about the genie. And for whatever reason, the dream came to me as I was Aladdin and I was on the streets, and it was very cute. But as I was personifying this particular character, I was facing a, what do you call it, a tiger. A white tiger. And I realized that I am the white leopard. So this is someone else in the dream that came to me as a white tiger. And so I'm sitting there and I'm having a conversation with a cat in my dream, dressed as Aladdin. And out of nowhere, I hear the boss's voice go, kiddo, you are Aladdin. And I went, oh. And then I started to dream about other very powerful spiritual people. And I remember thinking of David and Goliath. And I immediately saw an image of David Palmer in my dream as David slaying Goliath. And so I started to giggle, and it kind of started to wake me up. And then out of nowhere, the heartthrob that I have the biggest crush on in the world, that I would probably marry in a second if he was as Michael-esque as he appears to be, was Anderson Cooper, and he was King Arthur. And he was pulling the sword out of the stone. And this is what I hear myself say in the dream, which is very unusual. My response was kind of witty. I go, I don't know, boss. I don't really trust anybody who comes that quickly. And I just like, what the fuck? And I realized he was talking about I was referring to pulling the sword out too fast. And that kind of hurts. And I just started to giggle, and it woke me up. So I couldn't understand exactly what the dreams were alluding to at first, until I realized what they were, is that each of us now has a golden ticket. Some of us out there who are really doing the Divine's work, the Great Architect's work, God's work, whatever you call it, the chosen and so forth, where we are actually being given the opportunity to really live out our dream. But what the Divine was trying to point out to me when I was talking to the white tiger, I was talking to him about how I don't really feel the same way as I used to when I first started to materialize, or manifest, I should say, the dream that I wanted. And I had a stark reality shift, and kind of like a tower moment, which happens regularly. Usually tower moments, by the way, are very good, so this was a good one. But I realized this past week that I'm actually more interested in my soul tribe, and I'm actually way more focused on my partner, and wanting to raise his kids, our kids, whatever that dynamic is going to be, because, you know, it's a variable. And that I'm actually more interested in the personal connections now. I'm less worried about the financial gains. And that is coming from someone who specifically is still is trying to rebuild from the bottom up, as I went through the spiritual journey, and I'm still, you know, coming out of the desert. And so as I walk into life again, I'm realizing that though I still have the same issues that were there, I really don't care about them. They really don't have an effect on me. What is affecting me is the lack of personal dynamic between very important people to me, people that I think like, people that I want to work with, and people that I can re-envision my own dream within whatever the partnerships are there. And so I started to realize a couple things that came in like dominoes, and so I'm supposed to share it with you. So essentially I had wondered what I had said, because my guides had been talking to me about the fact that I had stuck my foot in my mouth at some point a couple times. And from the dream that I gathered, it was one towards Anderson Cooper and once towards David Palmer. And I was like, well, okay. And so what had happened is that I had gotten really shy in a recent, well, not a recent post, but a couple months ago, I had made a comment about the fact that I really like Anderson Cooper, but it's a very professional relationship because I got really embarrassed by a friend of mine who had made a joke about at my expense for being so kind of giddy over this man. And so I put my foot in my mouth because I don't know if you ever saw it, but what I said kind of contradicted what I wanted, which was I really do have a physical crush on the man, and he really does like get my goat, and it's his laugh. It kind of makes my heart flutter a little bit. And though I may never meet the man, what I unknowingly did is I contradicted myself to the universe, and so the universe kind of put me at a stalemate moment and went, wait a minute. Make up your mind here. Would you ever really, go after Anderson Cooper if you had an opportunity? Not that ever will happen necessarily, but the point is I wasn't clear in my messaging. So it came to me in a Disney movie, in a Disney dream, because not only was I Aladdin, but then Anderson Cooper was King Arthur, and then David Palmer was David slaying Goliath. And so I was like, okay, all right, I probably was a little chicken shit in it, so let me clarify, because the Divine Universe is very big on me right now, making sure that I state very clearly what's going on with me, because I'm supposed to be a leader, and I'm sitting here like getting all embarrassed. So, here's the thing. Anderson Cooper, to me, it's his eyes, okay? And it's also the way he laughs, and it makes my heart flutter, right? But more importantly, he also speaks for the people. He's a very powerful reporter who has made a name for himself, and has done very well at really, really having integrity and standing for the people. And so for me, that's the biggest turn on in the world, right? So that's the truth. So if I ever did meet Anderson Cooper, just to clarify, I probably would be very in love with him immediately. Not like crazy love, but like I would just have like a little crush, right? Because everything that he stands for is something that I, as someone who encompasses more of the Gabriel character, can relate to his being more the Michael character. He's been in the war, he speaks for the people, and he does represent us as a collective. So to answer the question that the universe wants me to clarify and to have the balls to do it, is that although I could be professional in this situation, and I would be, because that's, obviously not I can't make somebody like me. But just to be clear, he turns me on in every way. Okay? So, for whatever reason, my guides, they wanted me to come on here and kind of just be very clear that man just gets my goat. He just makes me happy. And so, just to be clear, I said that because of the fact that I got embarrassed by a friend of mine who said I was acting like a little schoolgirl, and that I allowed that opinion to interrupt what I was actually, the fact that I do have a crush on him as a man. And he's also very powerful, a gay man who, not powerful in the way that he is financially well off, but powerful in the sense that he does represent a very male quality, a very Michael-esque quality that I enjoy as a person. And so it makes, to me, that's more powerful than financial gain, right? So there's no financial part of that. It has to do with who he is, what he's done with his life, what he does for a living, and the fact that he reminds me of someone that I could be in a relationship with for a long time. Okay, there, I said it. All right, so the next part was the David Palmer thing. So I at some point had said something about not at David Palmer, but I had alluded to something that may have been taken the wrong way. David Palmer is straight, right? And so one of the things that he was the first crush I ever had in spiritual circles. And let me clarify this. He's a straight man. I'm not saying that I've ever really done anything towards that venture, because I do respect the fact that he's straight. But as far as a spiritual leader is concerned, he is the real deal. And one of the things that I was finding is I was getting embarrassed about the fact that I was attracted, even though he probably didn't know it, or maybe he did. But I wasn't. I was embarrassed by the fact that I was starting to seem that you could kind of read between the lines that I was very attracted to him as a person. But the thing with Dave Palmer is that he is exceedingly very direct, and I like the way that he runs his network. I like what he's doing. And so what I was trying to do was keep everything professional in both scenarios. And what I failed to realize when I was speaking was it may have come across as it was business only. And what I really, really was interested in with the David Palmer situation was a friendship. Because he and I speak the same language, and because I like Greg and I like the network and I like everything about their show. But what I really wanted was to talk to another living, breathing human being who thinks like I do. And so I allowed my uncomfortable nature to interrupt what could have been a possible camaraderie there. And because I do want to work with him, but it doesn't have to be professionally. It can be just energetically and talking to him about some of his views and some of the things that he looks at when he looks at the world, because he's very talented and he works with the tarot and astrology, and he's probably the best out there. I mean, I would say yes. So to clarify, the reason both of these Disney-esque dreams happen is because all three of us have different fairy tales that we can relate to, right? The diamond in the rough, me, and rubbing the genie. And then the fact that I do really appreciate David Palmer, who is trying to slay Goliath, and he's trying to do it in a way that welcomes the collective to raise their vibration. And then Anderson Cooper is my physical crush, as it, he is someone that I really just think is, amazing. And it's his eyes, and it's his giggle. So I don't know why I needed to clarify that, but I think it has something to do with us as a collective finding ourselves in a situation where we feel very awakened, but we're still reacting to other people's comments and allowing that to kind of change what we're trying to do or say. And so the caution here was from the divine was, Al, if you're going to dream big, then you must be clear of what your intentions are. And it was cute because I kind of got like a really warm, huggy feeling from the universe when I was listening, because I was kind of like, I'm uncomfortable with this. I don't want to talk about this. I'm not very good at emotions. I mean, I know that I'm a Cancerian, but you guys can tell I'm very King of Swords. Well, Queen of Swords, actually, more. So I'm not very emotionally it's not something I show to the outside world. It makes me a little awkward. And so I needed to come on here and clarify. So the point to you all as a collective, because I'm going to actually post this on LinkedIn, and I'm going to post it on my I close Facebook, but my LinkedIn, and I'm going to post it on my YouTube page. And I'm just going to put it out there because I don't want to send mixed messages and make people believe that I'm not interested in them, and I needed to be very clear on exactly how, because I was getting embarrassed. So when we as a collective are now moving towards making our dreams come true, this reset is now moving forward. Finally, we are starting to get the green light to go, and things are starting to open up again. The one thing that we're being cautioned about through me and through this Disney-esque type of thing is that we must be clear on what it is that we're trying to say, or what it is that our intentions are, because the universe doesn't understand innuendo. It doesn't understand modesty. It doesn't understand what it's like to be in a situation where we say one thing but we're meaning something else, right? Like they're just looking at us going, how long are we going to be stuck doing the same circle over and over and over again? Is it like a circle jerk? Like, what the fuck are we going to do? And so when you guys are re-envisioning yourselves and now having to pivot, because we're facing a pivot right now, understand that you have to be clear with your intentions and be willing to just put it out there. People may laugh, and maybe one of the people might actually be interested in talking to me for whatever reason, but if they don't understand the clarity of what it is, and I send mixed messages, then it confuses the situation, and it's on me. So the point to you all is, don't allow other people to stop you from saying what you truly feel, because at the end of the day, the universe doesn't understand your insecurity. It only understands and will only register when you are forthright and you go for it. So that's the other part. So then, out of nowhere, I went back to sleep because I thought it was very cute, and the Disney-esque dreams continued, and it was me laying on the ground, and I was, I guess, camping, and I was in the middle of The Emperor's New Groove, which a little confused me, but it's one of my favorite cartoons, but I'm not really a big person on dreaming and cartoons, so this was a very strange night. I thought I was, like, high or something, but I don't do drugs, so. Anyway, moral story is, I was on the ground, and I was the character that assists Ima, or Irma, whatever her name is, Eartha Kitt's character, and it was, but only Eartha Kitt was Elon Musk. Not because of the age thing, but I think because it's the Emperor's New Groove, so it was a reference that I understood. But it wasn't necessarily because of him that I'm pointing it out. It was because... I can't believe I'm going to say this. I was on the ground, and I had pitched a tent. And that's the only thing I saw. So that startled me, and I was like, for some reason that kind of freaked me out a little bit. I'm like, well, that's a sexual innuendo. And I realized I also had a little crush on Elon Musk. So, but the thing with Elon Musk is that it was a well-rounded scenario, because as soon as I woke up, I was just like, he's a brilliant man. And so, you know, like when you meet or you see people out there and you go, I could talk to this person forever and ever and ever and ever, because of the fact that he does do so much with the space research and trying to get us into space. And I have some thoughts on that, and I have questions relating to that as far as spirituality and whether we're going to get the go-ahead from the universe or whatever this is. And then, of course, you guys know that I have a big thing for the simulation theory, and I have all these queries that I want to run through him. And some of them are really like odd. Like I really would like to pick his brain because of the fact that he speaks to the simulation. And I was going to reference him a perfect example of the tarot, but I'm going to do a separate video of how the tarot actually leads a lot of people into spirituality and how it actually is a great tool to help people manifest destiny and focus their energies because they see something in the reading that they like, and then they focus their attention, and so they manifest that. The program listens to to where their interest is, the simulation, whatever it is. Whoever's programming, the great architect, will then know clearly what your interest level is from such things. And I wanted to know from him what that would be like as far as from an analytical standpoint, where I'm looking at it from a spiritual one. I wanted to pick his brain further on that and ask him what the great architect would be doing in order to manifest these things and how would that work, right? So I suddenly found myself in a really interesting position because when I got up this morning, I was a little groggy and I didn't understand why. And I had dreamt of David, and I had dreamt of Anderson, and I had dreamt of Elon Musk. So I was sitting there and I was trying to put everything together, and I realized what it was that I'm at a point in my life where though I still have my dream and I still have my goal, the interactions I'm looking for have to do with a personal dynamic. It has to do with deep conversations with very intelligent people. With David Palmer, it's all about the spirituality and how he speaks to Source. He calls it Source, I call it the Great Architect. And what he's doing in order to help raise the collective, because he's not having the easiest path. I mean, he is a leader. And one of the great things about being a leader like him is that you have to say it, mean it, and own it. And he has a lot bigger following. So whatever I am doing with Turquoise leadership is very minuscule, at least for me, compared to what he's doing, having to face the backlash. And I think at one point I heard him say that they were calling him egotistical from the other astrologers. Meanwhile, he's the one that has he has all the right answers so far, and he's been projecting everything properly. It's like him, me, and then I think one guy from Spain, I believe it is. Could be Italy. Sorry, guys. Anyway, so I find that incredibly sexy as a friend, too. That's like a dynamic that I can understand because he's straight, right? And so I had to make sure that I was very clear with that though I would like to work with him professionally, my interest with him, first and foremost, is that there's a camaraderie there in the fact that I do understand what he's trying to do, and it's not an easy road for him to go down, neither is mine. And so that's where the interest is to talk to him and Craig and to see, and Anne, who also is over there at Leo King. And so, though I came across sometimes, because I'm very awkward sometimes, I don't always understand how I'm supposed to reach out to people, I realized that I wasn't being clear enough because it came across like I needed something. And I realized what it was is I just wanted the personal interaction with that environment because they are spiritually awakened, and it's very few of us out there. So the interest there was more that. So I needed to state that. And so then with the Anderson Cooper thing, I realized that I had stuck my foot in my mouth because though he may never be interested and never may see it, the one thing that the universe does not like is when I'm not clear with what I'm trying to do or what my intention is. And with him, let's just face it, he is the cat's meow to me. He, very, very sexy man, the eyes and the giggle alone, just, happiness in me. And then Elon Musk is one of those people I could just speak to probably for the rest of my life because there's an intellect there, and there's like if you can envision goggles, like let's say that people look at the world through different lenses, right? He has a perspective and he says things that I register on a very personal soul level that makes me want to know him as well. So when we start to reinvent ourselves in this new phase, in this new world emerging, understand that the world and the universe in particular is asking of us to be clear and to understand that we're now having to pivot. Because remember, originally, my entire intent was to get the show off the air, which is still true, but I was focusing on a really big panel discussion with very influential people, and I'm realizing that what my actual soul wants is to help society, but through friendship and leading by examples and making really strong connections with people who truly see the world in a different way. And how can we then do something creative with that really brings everybody to the table? And so you notice the difference in the change that occurred, and it happened over this reset. And so when we're facing this, just understand that we're having to re-envision what it is that we wanted, because we're finding that the way that we projected it into the universe wasn't willing to accept it because of XYZ. There was all these different variables that would just fuck things up. But if you stay true to yourself and you allow the universe to hold you in place, at some point you realize that what they're waiting for is that they know you well enough to know that if you get this, you're not going to be happy until you realize what it is that you're truly after. And for me, it was my soul tribe, friendships, and true leaders out there who really think and see the world in the same way. And I had to be willing to say it. Because the one thing is that a lot of these individuals, for some reason, in my Disney-esque dreams, are very powerful people, and it played back to the Aladdin scenario where my name's Al, and I look like Aladdin, especially when I don't have this and my hair's shorter. But hey, well, I'm digging the beard and the hair. It's in a ponytail right now. But the point is, you have to understand, Aladdin was the diamond in the rough, and he had a genie. And the thing that was interesting about, that was triggered by Natalie's post, was when she said that you have a genie available, and I realized I can't ask the genie for anything, in theory, in the simulation, or whatever this is, without first being clear as to why these individuals matter to me, and be clear to them as to why they are of interest to me. So there you go, collective. I'm not embarrassed. This time I'm just very strong about it, but I had to be very clear so that you guys can see what is playing out. So for each of you, the way that was explained to me is, as just like me, some of us are doing a leveling up in some sort of scenario. I'm not really big on the leveling up ideology, but it's a catchphrase that people use. But what you're encountering is a little bit of whatever your fairy tale is. And for me, it was the diamond in the rough. But remember that Aladdin eventually becomes, he marries Jasmine, and he becomes part of that world, a whole new world. And so all of these things started to click in for me. And I realized that I'm having to be very clear, because the people that I'm going to be dealing with don't deal with confusion. It's very, very factual. So I needed to find a way to be very declarative in what I was saying, and so here we are. So when you all are going through this changeover event that's going on with us individually, understand that sometimes what they're waiting for is for you to be as clear as possible with what each individual that you are interested in brings to the table, or what you bring to them. And also understand that sometimes the dream that you had needs to be revamped because of XYZ. But if you're not open to that, then the reality check won't come in, and the dream wouldn't have made sense. I just would have been like, what the fuck is with the Disney cartoons? But because of the fact that I was in a place where I was awakened, and I was seeing the fact that I'm not driven by the material world like a lot of people are, and it's a little frustrating to me at times, because the people that I'm interested in are very powerful, but it's not because of their financial gains, it's because of who they are as souls. And so I had to be very clear in myself to understand the differential, because I was a little uncomfortable with the fact that the money to me still implied that they are better than me. And for you all, you have to understand that that's not what's going on. Where we are now unfolding is that we're all equal, and we're fighting for equality and raising the vibration of society and making everybody feel included. So if you feel that they have a leg up on you, then you're not as clear as you probably could be, and you feel like it's out of your reach. So this is my moment where I just decided to just say everything very clearly and let the cards fall where they were going to fall. Life is too precious. It's too amazing. My dream has changed. I was really gung-ho on spending all my time on making sure the show went off on the air and stuff like that. And I realized that it's just not as important as the interactions between friends and people that I really want to get to know. People that bring something that we can bring friendship to each other, loyalty, truth, and be in a similar headspace where a lot of people aren't. And so I had to declutter the scenario and realize, yeah, Anderson Cooper's the cat's meow, and he's my ideal. But I was deterred by the fact that I just felt like I couldn't approach him, and so it made it look awkward. So even if he never sees it, you guys know what I'm saying. Because of that, I never had a chance, because I was so worried about the fact that, I'm the diamond in the rough Aladdin, and he's like the Jasmine character. Well, he would be more, you know what I mean? He's the masculine, I'm the feminine in the scenario, but whatever the dynamic is. I was letting that deter me from actually being very clear and admitting that I have a massive crush on the man. Okay? And then with David Palmer, I had stuck my foot in my mouth because I had not realized that I could approach him in a friend-to-friend kind of way and be like, hey, you want to go have a beer or something? Because, well, we neither one of us drink, so do you want to go have like a Coke somewhere? I just want to pick your brain about what you see coming, because I see things and I know that he sees things, but we're each individually dealing with it, and he is, I think, under a lot more pressure than I am. So that's where I could be of service as just a friend with him and Craig and Anne, is just talking about it, because I'm facing the same things, only I have a smaller viewership. But it doesn't mean that I can't be honest with the fact that as a friend he interests me because of what he's trying to do, and that takes a lot of balls, and so I really respect that. And then Elon Musk, of course, I just, it's the fact that I could probably speak to him for the rest of my life on things that I find very, very important for our world that other people may not see, and so it's that we see the world in similar ways. But I can't have any of that in my life. I can't pull that into my energy field if I'm not clear, and that's this message for you all. However you are receiving the data from above, whatever you feel is a simulation life or whatnot, be open to the fact that though you will feel at times like they don't know you well because you are in a desperate situation, or you're uncomfortable, or you have all these debt, blah, 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 understand that you will always be taken care of. So what is the truth that you are trying to parlay, and what is it that you're trying to find? Because without that, the universe can't go. Door open. That's it, guys. Have a great day. Bye.